So somebody might ask, why should you teach leadership and ethics in the theater? It turns out the theater is a place where you can really teach people about collaboration, about leading by choice, not leading because of position, because no one has a position here. In the theater, all you've got is the lines that I give you. So it's a place where there's pure collaboration, because the students are all equal in some sense. They have to direct each other, give each other feedback, get each other to cooperate by choice. And because it's theater, there's an affect, a feeling that comes with the performance. And that turns out to be very powerful, much more powerful than thinking about cases, which work primarily on a cognitive level, or even thinking about analyzing things like literature, which again are affective, but are mostly cognitive. Here you're doing something, and the feelings that you generate while you're doing something imprint the kinds of things that you're learning here. So I find the theater to be the most powerful way I've ever discovered of trying to teach leadership. In the very first class, what we try and do is get the students out of their comfort zone. And so we work on some acting exercises that we've invented over the years, or that we've taken from other places. We ask the students to imagine being a character that they know, and we ask them to work on all their senses to really become this character. We work on questions like believability, what the subtext of your character is, etc. And then we work on listening. We have an exercise that we do that really has them listen to each other, pay attention to each other. At the end of that, we give them the Bodart exercise. Now, the purpose of the Bodart exercise is to get them to sort of break free from the constraints that they find themselves in their thinking. We give them a host of constraints. As I'm reading out the constraints, the looks on their faces are, this is just impossible. There's no way to do this. And so what we want them to see is that it's the constraints themselves that give rise to creativity. We have this idea that creativity is about sitting in a room and making up dreams and stuff. In reality, we always start from where we are. We always start from the language, the concepts, the ideas that we have, that we normally use. It's when you can take those, put them together in a way that the constraints themselves give rise to thinking creatively about that. And that's what that exercise does. The other thing it does is it forces them to work together. And so it's a way of saying, you know, it's such an impossible exercise. If they can do this, they can do anything. And so we use it as a way to take them from their very uncomfortable acting exercises to a performance where they actually can see each other being creative, being collaborative, exercising leadership. And it works great. We try to put them in the scene exercise so they can take their abilities kind of one step forward. In the scene exercise, again, somebody has to direct, and there has to be a lot of feedback that goes on. And then they have to put the scenes together into some kind of coherent way. So the scene exercise really gets them into a performance where they don't have the pressure of writing the scene, and it's just about performance. But seeing performance as not just what goes on the stage. Seeing performance as what goes on behind the stage, and the importance of rehearsal, the importance of more rehearsal, the importance of even more rehearsal. And they have to do things like learn lines, give each other feedback, act as directors. And so it really, it really enmeshes them in the idea of theater. What we don't do, we don't stop and say, okay, so what does this have to do with business and leadership? We want them engaged and enmeshed in this, and then at the end we try and pull back. So the boat art exercise is one performance, the scene exercise is another performance, and then the final performance, it's a gradual building of getting enmeshed in the theater.
Okay.
One of the things we've found over the years is that if you just let the students write, it unlocks their creative process, but it's very hard to put together a coherent performance with that. So we've moved to the idea of picking a theme for the writing. It's a little bit like the Chekhovian exercise, where the theme serves as a constraint on people, and that's been a nice way to do it. It makes the transitions in the actual performance much easier to deal with. There's coherence from scene to scene, and the process that we use to do that is really kind of an emergent process. People talk about themes, they run email streams about what they think they can do, and eventually we get down to kind of a hard, half hour of let's pick something and do it. Usually by the time we get to this, they're so immersed in the theater that they're working with each other. And the process has to be, even if your theme isn't picked, you've got to be completely committed to the one that is picked. I think the only thing smart I did in designing this class was to make the final exam a public performance and not to back off that. I didn't understand it then, but I understand now what that did in terms of the engagement and the intensity of the students. And I have to say, in the first class, Randy and I were so unsure of what we were doing, and Laura, we were so uncertain of what we were doing, that there were lots of times in which I thought, well, maybe we shouldn't really do a final performance. But I insisted, for some reason, probably just stubbornness, that the final exam was a public performance. We started the idea of having people write their own plays from something called 24-hour theater, which lots of theater companies do, and they use playwrights and directors. It may have begun at something called the A-Train plays in New York, where you get on the A-Train and you start writing, and by the time the A-Train gets to the end of the line, you've got plays, and then they're put up the next day. We started doing that in the one-week version of this course, and what we found was the students really blossomed. They were able to write. It was a creative outlet. The commitment that comes from performing your own and your classmates' plays is far greater than your commitment to performing, a good play, but one that's done on Broadway. Again, necessity works here. In the one-week course, we didn't have time to put up a full-length play, so we used this 24-hour theater. Then what we decided was, in the version of the course that's 7 weeks long, the students had been missing this writing. And so now we get them to write. The reason you have people write and perform their own plays is it's about their creativity. It raises the stakes for everybody. So now I'm giving you feedback, and I'm not just giving you feedback on how you're playing Othello. I'm giving you feedback on your character that maybe you've had a hand in writing. And so the stakes are much higher when you're performing your own stuff. You don't want the audience, in this case are your friends, to think you've written something that's stupid or that it's performed in a way. So it just raises the stakes and makes the intensity of the experience around directing and acting and giving feedback and the leadership skills around collaboration. It just makes that intensity very high. In business, theater helps you in a lot of ways. The first and obvious way is it's about performance. And by using theater, you learn performance skills. One student said to me, The thought of being nervous at giving a presentation at a board of directors after taking this course is frankly ludicrous. So there's the presentation skill. In business, theater helps you to be a better leader because you've had to engage in this intensely collaborative process where feedback and tough feedback has to be given and received, where collaboration has to work, even though egos may clash, even though roles may clash. And so you become a better leader by trying to move that process forward. In business, theater works because there's incredible work and practice for this. You have a lot of resources at your command. It's not just words and PowerPoint slides. It's the whole panoply of performance tools. And once you can see your job as about all those performance tools that you have, you can be more effective. And finally, theater helps people in business because, frankly, it's fun. It's incredibly empowering to take something, to create something, a performance, literally from nothing in a very short period of time. The students are so jazzed at the end of this. The feeling that you get of accomplishment is so terrific that if you can capture part of that in the workplace, there isn't very much you can't do. I think one of the things that stood out to me about this particular group of students is they set some personal challenges for themselves. Cesar, who's known to be a really funny, happy guy, wanted to do a very dramatic scene and have people not laugh. He found that to be very difficult and scary even to do, but he did it and pulled it off exceptionally well. Other people set themselves personal challenges like that, and I'm just in awe of what they managed to pull off at the end. This year's experience was, the performance was just incredible. What they managed to put together as a coherent final performance, and it was funny, and it was deep and sad, it was sexy, it was fully human. It's very hard to compare year to year in this course because each of the classes is different. They take on different challenges, and we've only had them write their own plays for the last couple of years in the 7-week version. It's very hard to compare them, and they're all terrific. So we talk about the final performance from the first day of class. We tell them they're going to write and direct their own performance. A lot of them have taken the course because they watched the final performance, they either the previous year or some earlier time, but they don't really understand what that means. So we do the Chekhovian exercise, we do the scene exercise, and they're pumped up. They're just pumped up because they've done this, they performed, and they think, yeah, bring it on. Let's do this thing, let's write it, let's get after it. And then about a week into it, they understand what they've bitten off, about how incredibly difficult and demanding it is to write, produce, direct, act, put up a 1.5 to 2 hour show from scratch in 3 weeks. That's phenomenal. The fact that they do it is a testament to their hard work, but it's also a testament to their creativity. If business people understood how much they leave on the table because they don't ask people to be creative. I mean, I see what the students can do I know what they're going to be asked to do, many of them in their first jobs. It makes me want to say companies really underperform because they don't use this creative side of people. I think one of the most important lessons students learn here is the importance of feedback. In performance, I have to give you feedback because you can't see it the way I see it. You see performance and you know what you're trying to do, but you don't know what the effect of that is on the audience. You don't know what the effect of that is on people that are watching. So you have to give feedback to people so that you can get the effect you want. You can have the desired effect that you intend to have. It turns out feedback in the theater, again, it's a tricky process because you might be trying to display a particular emotion. You might be trying to be really sad. And what happens is it's comical. Or oftentimes what happens is the students are the actor's trying to be funny. They're way over the top. And they think it's hilarious, but it becomes slapstick, not funny. So we can't figure out how to give each other feedback in the process. The performance is not going to be very good. I think that's true in all the fine arts. My daughter's a painter. They have crit sessions where they criticize each other's work. In music, you have to give other people in the band feedback as to what they're doing. And it must happen in theater as well. In business, one of the reasons corporations underperform is people are lousy at giving each other feedback. Theater creates an intense experience where you just have to figure out how to do that. Over the years, the students have said, giving and receiving feedback to peers has been one of the most important lessons they've learned here. I'll only add, I didn't really have any idea about this when we started the course. I think this year's class really understood what the course was about. They got the points about leadership and collaboration, creativity, understanding what it means to do something that you just don't think you can do, and how you get a group to act as a group of 24. I really think they got that. They started off getting it the first day. One of those first acting exercises was amazing. In fact, we brought one of the characters back. A conscious character in the final performance was one she created on the first day. So I think this year's group really got the leadership piece of the course. I'm really happy about that. What theater directors and CEOs really have in common is if a theater director forgets for 1 second that all he or she has to work with is the human beings that are in the company, the performance is going to be horrible. CEOs need to pay attention to that same lesson, and the best ones understand it. One of the best ones I've ever met said to me, look, the only assets I manage go up and down the elevator every day. So it's that complete focus on seeing business as a human activity, as a human institution, and the full complexity of who we are as human beings is what makes great businesses great.